Please join me in welcoming Jakki Opollo, co-founder of Lovebound International.
You may be seated. Thank you for that warm welcome and great introduction, Alicia. Wow, what a beautiful crowd. It looks really nice up here. You know, I was coming in, driving with my husband today before we left the house, and I couldn't find my keys, and he found them. And then 3 minutes later, I lost them, and he said, well, honey, you are turning 40, are you? And I guess, you know you're turning 40 when you lose your keys and you can't find them in 3 minutes. So anyway, in any case, on behalf of our board of directors at Lovebound International, it is my pleasure to formally welcome you to our inaugural event, benefiting Siala Primary School in Rongo, Kenya. Oh, my clicker won't work. Let's see here. Let's turn it on. Yeah, that's a start. Oh, there we go. I really am turning 40, huh? So first and foremost, I do want to thank God for making this day possible. I want to thank each one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and join us in this worthy cause that is very dear and near to my heart, especially on my 40th birthday. Lovebound International is a coalition of professional individuals who share 3 core values: charity, compassion, and community. It is our mission that above all else, we are dedicated to enhancing dignity and improving the health and social well-being of individuals and communities that we serve. Our vision is to inspire individuals to take action by strengthening communities to lead the way and achieve exemplary population health outcomes. You see, back in 2000, we as a world came together and framed the global challenges under the 2000 United Nations Millennium Development Goals. How many of you have heard of the UN MDGs or the UN SDGs prior to that video that we played earlier? Okay, that's my Baylor friends. I know they know that because we travel with them all the time. How about on this side? Anybody? Oh, yay, great. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the video. And so back in 2000, the United Nations had the UN MDGs, and there was 8 goals at the time to be attained by 2015. And while we have covered some ground since then, there's still a lot of work to be done. Most recently, we expanded those goals to 17 goals, and we renamed them the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and there's 17 of them. And the goal and hope is that we will attain these goals by 2030. And so by 2030, we should expect that the world will come to reevaluate all of us to see what we have done to achieve these goals. This means that each one of us has a responsibility to advance these goals in one way or another. The question is, what are you doing personally or collectively to advance each of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? Of course, it would be unfair to hold you accountable if you do not even know what the UN SDGs are. So as a first step, you must educate yourself and educate others about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. According to the United Nations, more than 700 million people live in extreme poverty, lacking basic needs such as healthcare, education, access to water and sanitation, just to name a few. Many scholars, politicians, and business leaders attribute poverty to factors such as unemployment, social exclusion, epidemic diseases, war, and political instability. But you see, I think Mother Teresa said it best when she said, "We think sometimes that poverty is only being hungry, naked, and homeless. The poverty of being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for is the greatest poverty. We must start in our own homes to remedy this kind of poverty." At Lovebound, we recognize that a lot of the problems we face around the world are really due to a lack of love. The notion of love is not only central to our name, but also central to our mission, vision, and values. In fact, we believe that love is not sustainable. Love is what sustains, and that love never fails. Many years ago, my sisters, Leah, Diana, and I, wanted to desperately make a difference in our community back in Kenya. As a matter of fact, we got a group of our friends together, we shared some ideas, and we asked them to join us in a cause to make a difference in our community. But then we never did anything about it. Instead, we went about our lives. But more than 10 years later, the stars have finally aligned. We have been inspired by many others who continue to do great work with the little that they have. But sadly, we continue to see a lot of suffering too. We can no longer turn our backs. Like you, we want to leave our mark in this world, and we believe that this coalition that we are building will serve as a powerful avenue that will help us to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We believe that Lovebound will demonstrate to others the power of love for global impact. You know, I was born and raised in Kenya, and growing up in a culture of poverty, I did not perceive my situation as that of deprivation. My perspective was totally changed when I immigrated to the United States and began to compare lifestyle in the United States to lifestyle in Kenya or Africa for that matter. Somehow, over the years, I had hoped that the situation in Kenya would get better, but obviously it has not. Indeed, we have made progress in some areas, and yes, we have an Africa that functions, a continent with stock markets, skyscrapers, a growing middle class, innovative technology, a vibrant culture, and amazing natural wonders, whether you're talking about the pyramids in Egypt, the Victoria Falls in Zambia, Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, the Masai Mara in Kenya, and of course, the beautiful Nairobi skyline, just to mention a few. But unfortunately, there still remains a vast part of the continent that is ravaged by war, poverty, hunger, corruption, low literacy rates, poor sanitation, gender inequality, not to mention the global burden of diseases such as HIV, AIDS, and malaria. Like many of you, we at Lovebound know that economic, social, cultural, and political factors all contribute to inequitable access to healthcare and education in many countries around the world. But because the problems and issues we're trying to address are too large for any of us to face on our own, we're committed to inspiring action, encouraging participation, and mobilizing others to help solve the health and development challenges in Kenya and beyond. While we cannot tackle all the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we realize that these goals are all inextricably linked. And our initial efforts will focus on 5 of the UN SDGs. And so I'd like to highlight for you a few areas where Lovebound will be focusing on. The United Nations goal number 4 is aimed at ensuring inclusive and quality education for all and promoting lifelong learning. Siela Primary School is located in Rongo District, Migori County in southwestern rural Kenya. It is a public school that caters for about 400 students, boys and girls, with only 19 administrative staff, so the teacher-to-student ratio is about 1 to 50. You see, the teachers are hardworking and dedicated to imparting knowledge on their students. They love what they do, and despite the many challenges, they continue to smile even in the face of adversity. I will never forget Mrs. Marisa Akech, the lady in the black and white dress. When we visited Rongo, she welcomed us with open arms. She was so excited at the possibilities. She believed that our interest in Siala Primary School was divine intervention. Like Lovebound, Siela Primary School has a mission, vision, and value statement. It's proudly displayed on the principal's office. As part of their mission, vision, and values, Siela Primary seeks to provide a caring and orderly environment that promotes excellence. Oops. Oh. There is a reason they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. To put it mildly, seeing this girl asleep on her desk outside the classroom broke my heart. I couldn't help but wonder why she was outside asleep on her desk in the first place. Then I wondered the many reasons why she was asleep. Is she asleep because she was hungry and did not have any food to eat? Is she asleep because she was exhausted after walking many kilometers to get to school? Is she asleep because the sun was unbearably hot on this particular day? Is she asleep because she was dehydrated and didn't have any water to drink? Sadly, these are all too common experiences for children in resource-poor settings. The one question I couldn't get out of my mind was, Is she asleep because suddenly she realizes that her dreams may not come true? As she lay asleep, and as I walked away, hoping that she was not sleeping because her dreams were dead, I was hoping that she was dreaming that one day her dreams will come true. These musings formed the impetus for what has now become the Siala Primary School Project. You see, Siela Primary School is located on this beautiful, expansive, open land. On this particular day, the students were completing their end-of-semester exams. Because the classrooms are overcrowded during exam time, they're forced to spend the day outside, whether it's in the dust, the scorching sun, or under the trees to do their exams. I thought to myself, this is hardly a place that is safe to promote learning. There were cows grazing from afar, pedestrians traversing the open land, motorcycles speeding through the school grounds. Not to mention that because the environment is not secured, every day many of these children have to carry their chairs to and from their homes. The choice is then ours to make, to either invest in these vulnerable children now or to turn a blind eye. At a minimum, we can at least work with a community in Siala to put a fencing perimeter and install a gate that establishes the Siela Primary School as a safe place to learn, instilling pride in these children as they walk in and out of school every single day, and making sure that no child should have to carry their chair to and from school. Every child deserves a seat in school. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow is a famous psychologist who posits that we must take care of needs in the following order: physiological needs, safety, social esteem, self-esteem, and self-actualization. In other words, one cannot attain their goals and their dreams if we do not take care of their basic needs, plain and simple. You see, love is powerful, love inspires, and love sparks kindness. Love is not a feeling, love is a decision. United Nations goal number 3 and goal number 4 are focused on ensuring healthy lives and promoting the well-being for all children of all ages, and ensuring access to water and sanitation for all. I'm a nurse. I was naturally inclined to want to lead efforts surrounding healthcare, particularly because in March of 2016, my mother took ill while she was in Rongo. The doctors failed to diagnose her with malaria, even after 2 visits to the hospital, and after I called them and pleaded with them to prescribe malaria medicine for her, even though she had not tested positive for malaria. You see, her symptoms were classic malaria symptoms, and at her age, I was worried she would not survive a serious bout of malaria. But for the grace of God, she may not have lived to see another year. Thankfully, we were able to evacuate her to Nairobi, where she was promptly diagnosed with malaria, was hospitalized for 10 days, and I'm pleased to say she received great treatment, and she's back in good health. When she took ill, my husband and I traveled back home to spend quality time with her. We went back to Rongo and visited the healthcare facility that failed her the first and second time. After conducting a community needs assessment and engaging the community stakeholders, they were all in agreement that a quality healthcare facility was much needed in Rongo, and they were gracious to donate 7 acres of land for the development of a quality healthcare facility. My mother was very pleased and excited at the possibilities. Although she knew that this might be a long-term project, she took great pride in knowing that her daughters were finally going to do something about others who were disadvantaged. But it was while we were scoping and assessing the donated land that the scope of our project evolved. Yes, this mud hut that you see here is a real picture of an early childhood development class for children under the age of 5 years. It is simply that, a mud hut. No furniture, no supplies, no lighting, no windows, just a mud hut. I want you to imagine for a moment your child, your grandchild, beginning their pre-kindergarten learning and education in such an environment. Many psychologists have demonstrated that the physical environment can significantly impact brain development and consequently influence academic achievement, social, emotional, and cognitive development of children. This mud hut is not acceptable. We must do something about it, and we must do it now. You see, my mother was a teacher for many years, and she, like my father, was passionate about education. And together they made sure that all 8 of us attended some of the best schools in Kenya, encouraging us to be the best that we can be. As we spent more time at Siela Primary School, we uncovered numerous challenges, from the lack of a fencing perimeter around the school to the lack of access to safe, clean water and dignified toilet facilities, and to the deplorable learning infrastructure that you saw. Although our ultimate goal is to build a healthcare facility, the mandate is clear. The first phase of our projects must ensure that these 400 children and their families have access to water, safe water, dignified toilet facilities, a fencing perimeter around the school, and upgraded building facilities, not only for the early childhood development class, but also for the upper primary classrooms. At a minimum, we have to make sure that these children do not die from preventable water and sanitation-related diarrheal diseases that continues to kill at least 1,000 children daily around the world. Later on, when I spoke to the older students, I asked them about their dreams. Some of them wanted to be doctors, lawyers, pilots, and even nurses. I was filled with great emotion, sadness, and a feeling of helplessness. I kept asking myself, how can it be that these young children must start their early childhood education in this shack? I knew in my heart that the environment makes a big difference in learning and shaping our dreams. How can we expect them to dream bigger? You see, I've always believed that talent and intellect are equally distributed around the world. What is lacking is equal opportunities. And with your help, we're determined to make a difference. Remember Mrs. Akage that I mentioned earlier, the jovial, smiling lady in a black and white dress? She was the one who welcomed us to Siala Primary with open arms. Sadly, on December 15, 2016, her life was cut short in the hands of brutal murderers. She loved her students. She loved children. After all, she had 5 of her own, 1 son and 4 daughters. She loved girls, and especially girl education. She believed the work that we were about to begin was divine intervention. She prayed for Lovebound, and in fact urged her colleagues to continue to pray for Lovebound under one of her favorite trees. Sadly, she will not live to see what Lovebound will accomplish. But I am thankful that she planted the seed of prayer, a seed that her colleagues have promised to nurture daily. It is a great testament to Nelson Henderson, who once said, "The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit." You see, it takes a long time for a tree to grow and be able to provide shade on a hot summer day. This means that we must not get tired of doing good. It may take us time. It may be hard work. We may need a lot of resources, but we should not expect to gain anything from our good works, but rather we should rest assured that one day someone will be able to sit in the shade of the trees that we have planted along life's journey. May Mrs. Akage's soul rest in eternal peace. Goal number 11 and goal number 17 of the United Sustainable Development Goals are focused on ensuring sustainable development and global partnership for sustainable development. In alignment with goal number 11 and 17, we at Lovebound are committed to building strong, effective, and efficient partnerships between governments, the public and private sectors, academic and faith-based communities, both in the United States and abroad. At the core of our mission at Lovebound is enhancing dignity. When one has dignity, they have a sense of intrinsic worth and pride in oneself. Sadly, it is a normal challenge for many girls around the world to skip school when they are on their periods. Others use old rags, they use leaves, which may cause infections, or they sit in isolation on a cardboard because they're on their periods and they cannot afford the sanitary towels. Many more drop out of school. And frankly, it had never occurred to me that there was an alternative to disposable sanitary towels. You see, at Lovebound, our board members bring a wealth of experiences, knowledge, and expertise to the board. Dr. Laurie Spees, a dear friend and colleague who celebrates her birthday tomorrow, has worked with Baylor students on the PAD project to provide reusable sanitary pads to girls in India. My friend Joanne Muturi and her friends Angela and Carol put together a grassroots initiative called Operation Bras, Pads, and Panties to provide disposable sanitary pads to girls in Nice View Academy, an orphanage in Machakos, Kenya. And so to this end, we are committed to advancing the goals that were established by Days for Girls International to make sure that every girl, everywhere, has access to sustainable menstrual hygiene kits, period. We know many of you have sacrificed deeply to support this event, and for that, we are truly thankful. Rest assured, we don't take your support for granted, but I now personally have one more plea to each one of you. In honor of my 40th birthday, I'm appealing to each one of you to dig a little deeper into your pockets. Your $40 donation can make a difference so that at least 4 girls can have access to reusable sanitary pads for 4 years. Yes, think about it. $40, 4 girls for 4 years. I think we can do that. Walk in their shoes for one day. Ask yourself right now, could you or your daughter sit on a cardboard, use leaves, skip school, or even work for 5 to 7 days simply because you're on your period? It's not acceptable, and we must do something about that. You see, love is selfless, sacrificial, and transformational. Love is a verb. Love requires action. If we all do what love asks us to do, then maybe, just maybe, we will attain the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. When we all learn to speak the language of love, we are moved to action, and there is no doubt our world becomes a better place because of this. Your donation of $10, $20, $30, or even $40 or more will go a long way in helping us achieve our goals. The money raised today will go towards making sure that 400 students at Siela Primary School have a safe environment to learn, access to clean water, dignified toilet facilities, menstrual hygiene kits for girls, decent learning facilities that are equipped with furniture, fixtures, teaching aids, books, and supplies. And so as I close my remarks, it is my hope and prayer that today will mark the beginning with an end in mind, making 2017 the year that our eyes opened up to the full realities facing vulnerable populations around the world, to the horror of the world's daily preventable death toll, to the grinding misery of so many millions of people around the world, but yet also to the greater hope that together we can change that reality for the better. We invite you on this journey, and we look forward to what we can accomplish together. Now, these 3 things remain: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Love never fails. Let's get to work. Let's make it happen. Thank you.